Hello friends, welcome. In this video I want to talk to you about Inside Out 2, which is a sequel that I wasn't excited about because sequels don't have the best fame. But I have to say that after watching it, I think it's a good movie. I think it works great. I still think the first one is better, but I like this one too. The reason why I like the first one better than the second one is because if you think about it, the second one has two very important characters. I would even dare to say they are both protagonists, both joy and anxiety. And they're even both of them on different locations. So that being said, you have to divide your screen time, your screenplay, your character development time, if you want to call it like that, into characters. In the case of the first one, there was only joy, so she didn't have to share her development time, if you want to say it like that, with anyone else. So they had more opportunity to enrich her and also enrich the things that she goes through in her journey. This is neither good or bad, it's just how it is. It's an extra challenge, when you have two different protagonists, you need to give both of them a balance. You need to give both a balanced character development. And again, it's not bad. I actually think it's very interesting to watch these kind of movies. They're fun. Having two characters, it gives you a different kind of movie, different perspective. I actually think in this movie it works very good. The other reason why I like the first one better than the second one is because back in 2015, I think that's when the first movie came out. It was the very first time that someone actually told me how important it is to accept sadness. It was something that it was very important for me to know, and it was the first time. So I learned something new besides having that validation. And it was so meaningful that I cried when I watched that movie. In the case of the second one, yes, I felt very touched because me, as many other people, I know how it's like to have anxiety and having these panic attacks. So I felt very related, and I did feel that validation. But I think the times are very different now. I think right now we're talking more about mental health issues more than back then. I think it's been like 9 years. So it's been, I'm grown up. Well, I was grown up. But I'm 30 now, so I'm not the same person that I was before. And I know more about anxiety, more than I knew about sadness back then, if that makes sense. So again, this is not bad. I actually, again, I felt touched by the movie. It made me feel something. I felt very validated, and I actually believe it's great. It's fantastic that they made this movie about anxiety, because I know there's a lot of people, not only young kids, young adults, but also adults like me. I'm in my 30s. I'm actually 30, so I felt very related, and it's very important that we talk about this. So it's great. I think it works. But again, I think the times are different now, and also who I am, I'm different than I was back then. So maybe I just needed more the first one 9 years ago that I needed the second one today. But again and again and again, I'm still very glad that this movie came out, and I also felt connected with it. All of that being said, now I'm gonna focus on talking about the second movie, which it has a great setup. I really liked it. It works great. I like how they introduce us the new concepts, like this is the belief system. I think that's how it's called, and the sense of identity. I also think that's how it's called. They work very great. It's very well explained, and also they show us how that's connected with the old reality that we already knew about, and how things have changed with Riley now that she is facing puberty. For example, we see again the family island, but now we see that it has changed. So it proves us there has been a progression of time, but also with Riley and her feelings and how her brain is working. Also, a very important sequence is when Riley finds out that her friends won't be attending the same school than her. And this is very important, not only for the story, which of course it is, but it's also very important to show us that Joy actually kept her change from the first movie, because sadness makes Riley cry, and Joy is like, oh, she needed it. So that in that way, she is proving us that she actually kept her change, that the first movie did happen. And this is very important again for sequels, because we don't want to start over. Well, I mean, sometimes it happens, but in these kind of sequels, it needs to be proven that the first one did happen. We cannot pretend that we're starting over. So I think it was very important that we are not seeing the same Joy before the first one. We're actually seeing Joy starting a new adventure after learning a lesson in the first one. So I think that was great and it works great. I also like the setup of the old characters because we get to see their functions, their role inside Riley's mind when she's playing hockey, but we also get to see the new emotions in action when Riley meets Val. We get to see their function and their role inside of Riley's mind. And this is very important to get to know the characters and the role not only inside Riley's mind but also in the movie itself. And I think these both two scenes are very important for that and they work very great. Also, I really like this scene when Riley makes all the other girls' cell phones to be confiscated and Anxiety makes Riley talk with Val. I really like it because I think it proves us the positive side of Anxiety. This makes the story move forward. It helps convince the other characters, the other new emotions, that Anxiety knows what she's doing, but at the same time it creates an insecurity in Joy, which is also very important for her inner conflict. I'll get to that point later, but it works good and I think it's important also for the message of the movie, the speech of the movie, if you wanted to call it like that, because we get to see that Anxiety is not necessarily like completely bad again. I think it has like a function. It can be positive because we kind of need to plan ahead because we cannot just be like completely careless of what we do. And also another very important point is that it shows something positive before we get to see the negative effect. You know, the things that can happen when you don't learn to moderate your anxiety, when you don't know how to handle it. So again, this helps to build the speech or the message of the movie. And again, I think it's important and it works great. And I think both Joy and Anxiety work great as characters. And I know that some people say that Anxiety is the villain, but that is not the case. Because all villains are antagonistic characters, but not all antagonistic characters are villains. That being said, the huge difference is that all villains are antagonistic characters, but not all antagonistic characters are villains. Because villains are evil, you know, they do what they do because they're bad people, they're evil. In the case of antagonistic characters, they basically do what they do because they have the opposite goal or desire than the protagonistic character. So, for example, in this case, if Joy succeeds, then Anxiety fails. If Anxiety succeeds, then Joy fails. So, at least in their initial goal, of course. So, that being said, I do believe both of them are the protagonistic character, but also the antagonistic character of each other. The reason why I believe both of them are the protagonistic character of this movie is because they both have an internal and external conflict. They go through a character transformation and they have a character arc, and because they both have this goal at the beginning of the movie. In the case of Anxiety, for example, her internal conflict is that she thinks that if Riley is not successful and doesn't join the team, she's gonna be by herself, she's not gonna be happy. So she's trying like to anticipate that. In the case of Joy, her internal conflict is related to the fact that she doesn't want Riley to change because she's scared of change and she's scared that she will no longer need joy, that she will only need anxiety. So that is the internal conflict that drives both of them. That being said, they go through a transformation when they realize that they're both wrong, because you know Anxiety wants to change Riley the way she wants to because she believes it's the right thing to do, but in the case of Joy she wants Riley to stay the same, and they both end up learning that they can't control Riley and they can't avoid that change. But that doesn't mean that huge fear that they both have inside of them, that doesn't mean that they won't be able to be part of Riley in the case of Joy, and that doesn't mean that Riley won't be by herself in high school in the case of Anxiety. So they both end up learning that they were in the wrong and learn to accept Riley and how they can completely control her. So that is very important for them as characters, and all of this is the reason why I believe they are both the protagonist of this movie. The moment with most dramatic tension in the whole movie is when Anxiety is trying to make Riley score these 3 goals because she believes that Riley is gonna be able to join the team this way. We don't know that, but that is what anxiety thinks, right? But she actually faces the consequences and realizes that she was wrong the whole time, that she can't and shouldn't try to change Riley. But also in the case of Joy, she also learns that trying to make Riley stay the same isn't the answer either. So she changes her point of view. And also, I think this is a very powerful scene because I know there's a lot of people like me that could relate with it, because in that panic attack, we could find like a connection with it. We know how it's like. And also, this amazing moment when she starts breathing and she touches the bench to calm herself down a little bit. I know both things are very important techniques to calm yourself from anxiety and panic attacks in general. So I think it works great, again, because we get to connect with that scene, not only with the characters because we understand them, but also with Riley because we get to be validated in this moment, and we empathize very, very easily with it. So I think again, it's a very powerful moment in the movie. I also want to mention a few details that I really, really liked. The brainstorming was very fun to see. It was obvious in a very good way, like it had to be done and it was good. I really liked it. Also, the spill the tea line that Scott says when someone spilled the tea. I don't remember who it was. I think it was Fear, but I don't remember. And then the Bluey reference with this Bluey character, which obviously was a reference of other like kid show, but by the name you could easily tell that it was like a Bluey like wink, like Easter egg, if you want to call it like that. Not exactly an Easter egg, but you know what I'm saying. And I really liked it. It was a very fun detail. But especially I love this scene when anxiety uses Riley's imagination to make her imagine horrible scenarios that could happen. I think it was very needed and very important. And I love that anxiety was proposing these catastrophic scenarios and Joy questioned them and proposed something completely different. Like, what if Riley is better than Val and Val hates her? And Joy said something like, oh, but what if Riley is better than Val and Val respects her? I think this is a very important technique that people use for anxiety. I think I don't know if it's called like this, but it's debating when you kind of debate these catastrophic scenarios that you have. So that's why I really, really think this was a very powerful scene because it felt very real. But the only negative thing that I have to say about the movie is about the character Envy, because there were moments when I didn't feel like she was Envy. It felt like she was a little bit of, another anxiety. And I know why she was important. I know that, and like in the narrative and how she helps the story like unfold. I can see why she was important. I think it was better to have her interact with anxiety than anxiety by herself. So I do understand all of that. It's just that there were moments when she didn't feel like she was acting like Envy. She will push the console, and it didn't feel like she was making Riley feel envy. It felt like she was making her feel anxious also. So that confused me a little bit. It's kind of an important detail, but overall it doesn't change my opinion about the whole movie. It's just a detail that it kind of bothers me, but again, I still think the movie is very nice. But in conclusion, I do recommend this movie. If you get the chance to watch it, please do let me know what you think. But I think, again, overall, it's a good movie. It works great. I do dare to say that maybe a third movie could work. Maybe it would be interesting to see their perspective about depression, for example, even though maybe it could be a little bit repetitive from the first movie. But because depression is more complicated than just sadness by itself, maybe it will be different enough. I think it will be very interesting to talk about that topic in the next movie if they decide to do a third one. Or even maybe it will be interesting to see a movie where they talk about medication in mental health, because I think we don't get to see a lot of that in animated movies, especially family movies. It's a topic that is not talked about enough nowadays, so it will be great to see something like that. I don't know if it will work, but in general, I think it could work, but they have to be very smart about it. I think it will be very hard to make it work, but I think this is one of the very few Pixar movies that I can actually like see a third one working out. But they have to be very clever about it, make a very big effort to make it work. But anyways, that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching it. Please let me know all of your comments and I'll see you in the next one.